Welcome to the Folktale Project. This is Dan Scholes. This week we're reading 3 stories in honor of Thanksgiving here in the United States. And to do that, I like to stick with 3 stories from the indigenous peoples, some Native American tales. The first story this week comes to us from Blackfeet Indian Stories. And our first tale is, well, it's one of those kinds of stories that explains why an animal is in a certain way or has certain features. In this case, it's 2 animals. This is 2 fast runners. Once, a long time ago, the antelope and the deer happened to meet on the prairie. They spoke together, giving each other the news, each telling what he had seen and done. After they had talked for some time, the antelope told the deer how fast he could run, and the deer said that he could run fast too. And before long each began to say he could run faster than the other. So, they agreed that they would have a race to decide which could run the faster, and on this race they bet their galls. When they started, the antelope ran ahead of the deer from the very start and won the race, and so took the deer's gall. But the deer began to grumble and said, "Well, it is true that out here on the prairie you have beaten me, but this is not where I live. I only come out here once in a while to feed or to cross the prairie when I am going somewhere. It would be fairer if we had a race in the timber. That is my home, and there I can run faster than you, I am sure of it." The antelope felt so glad and proud that he had beaten the deer in the race that he was sure that whatever they might run, he could beat him. So he said, "All right, I will run you a race in the timber. I have beaten you out here on the flat, and I can beat you there." On this race, they bet their dewclaws. They started and ran this race through the thick timber, among the bushes and over fallen logs, and this time the antelope ran slowly, for he was afraid of hitting himself against the trees or of falling over the logs. You see, he was not used to this kind of traveling, so the deer easily beat him and took his dewclaws. And since that time, the deer has had no gall and the antelope no dewclaws. And that is the Blackfeet story of 2 fast runners. And I love these stories, mostly because I love animal tales, especially when they can talk. I love these competition tales. And, I like origin tales as much as the next person, but ones like this that kind of hint at the idea of evolution, that at some point the deer had a gall bladder, and at some point the antelope had dewclaws, and then they lost them for whatever reason. It's just, amazing. I love it. I really love it. This is Dan Scholes for the Folktale Project. Don't forget that you can subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Play, Overcast, anywhere you like to get your podcasts. You can follow us on Twitter at Folktale Project. You can find us on Auto Radio, TuneIn Radio, iHeartRadio, Spotify, anywhere you like to listen. And you can always head over to folktaleproject.com, where you'll find a new story waiting for you every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Don't forget that if you'd like to help support the podcast, you can always head over to, now, folktaleproject.com/support. And there you'll find links out to Patreon and Ko-Fi and anywhere else. As always, thank you so much for listening.